Hello and welcome. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different, definitely something new for me that I haven't done, and that is I'm going to be reading my petty thought of the week. This is petty thought number 28. So for those of you who don't know, for I guess a little over the last 6 months, I've been posting. Normally it's about 500 to 1,000 words, just things that I'm thinking about, ideas that I'm sifting through. The tagline that I put to it when I started was actively or sharing my ideas while actively trying to figure them out, or something along those lines. And I think that theme still rings true 6 months later, and that's really what it's turned into. And it's been a really fun process for me. So, like I said, excited to test out this new aspect of it as well. Uh, like I mentioned, today's petty thought number 28. I'm going to be diving into saying no. This is saying no to things has been something that's been hard for me throughout my entire professional and personal life. It's just a hard thing to do. So I wanted to just dive into some thoughts that came to my head as I thought about why those things are difficult for me and how I can potentially kind of overcome some of the hurdles that I face when I'm challenged and find myself saying yes to too many things. So to kick it off, I start with a quote from Mr. Warren Buffett where he says, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. So I thought that was a pretty cool quote from him, and really kind of wraps up a lot of the themes of my thoughts around it. So diving in on some of my thoughts and what I wrote. Saying no to opportunities and projects seems to be one of the hardest things for leaders to do, including myself. But why is it so hard? We've all heard about the importance of saying no and the implications of what happens when we don't say no, yet it remains incredibly hard to do. Whether we are saying no to things on the personal front or within a group, whether it be in the professional workspace or any other type of community, there's two types of no's that stand out to me. The first one we're going to call the alignment no, and the second one I'm going to call the priority no. So the alignment no is the no that you say to things that are not aligned with the mission that either you or your organization are pursuing. There's an unending supply of projects to potentially work on in the world, and you've got to make a decision on whether or not those projects are aligned with the mission. Sometimes it's obvious when a project is not aligned with the mission at hand, but oftentimes it's not. And in fact, as leaders, anytime we make a decision on what we do and do not choose to work on, we are defining our mission. Oftentimes, we do have mission statements, but how does that mission statement actually get translated to the organization? Mission statements are abstract. They're usually 1 to 3 sentences that govern everything an organization is pushing towards. And so your team, or even yourself as an individual, is going to need more than that to truly understand how to interpret that mission statement. And every time we say no to something, we are defining that boundary between what is and is not aligned with our mission. So that's the alignment no. It's setting that boundary between, hey, these are the things that are aligned with the mission and these are the things that aren't. So that's the alignment no. Diving into what I call the priority no. The priority no is the no you exercise on those things that are aligned with your mission, but they're not the highest priority. There are many, many things that you can do that may have some measure of effectiveness in pushing towards your mission, but that does not mean you should work on that task or project. Whether this is in your personal life or within an organization, we all have limited resources, the big one being time. And as a result of those limited resources, you can't do everything. And therefore, you have to prioritize to maximize the effectiveness. So then I start kind of thinking to myself, hey, why can it be so hard to say no to certain projects? And I break this down into both alignment no's and priority no's. So why is it hard to say no to the alignment no's? Alignment no's are hard because they appear to limit potential. If it's a business, alignment no's may appear to limit you from pursuing other verticals that, in theory, could make your addressable market larger. So let's say you're currently developing a product for a market with an addressable market size of 100 million, and you think that your product, maybe if you tweak it a little bit or add this feature, could fit in a different vertical that's a $500 million market. So if you open the door to working on projects in that second ladder vertical, you just increased your market your addressable market up to 600 million, which is awesome. But you got to remember that that comes at a cost. You spread your resources out, you blur the lines of what does and does not fall under your mission unless you're very deliberate and clear in explaining the why and the implications of that decision. Obviously, there are times where expanding into other markets is the correct move as an organization, but those decisions have to be made very carefully. So I use a business example here. The same thing applies for your personal life. It's really hard to, like, especially when you're young, to pick a mission. You got to limit yourself down to, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, and sacrifice all those other potential paths that you could have taken to go down this one that you choose is going to be aligned with your mission. So alignment knows, whether it's in your personal life or business, career, professional career, those are always hard. Diving into priority knows and why those are hard. I said priority nodes are hard because they require the estimation and or measurement of the effectiveness of a particular project relative to others. Establishing how to measure effectiveness is something difficult enough in itself. It requires setting meaningful goals, and setting goals means setting conditions for failure as well. It's tempting to take ownership of a large number of processes or projects so that you can show how many things you're working on, but taking ownership of results and outcomes is much more of a burden, and it requires more than just working hard and long hours. In many cases, working hard is nowhere near enough to succeed. You have to work smart, prioritize those projects that are effectively, and courageously say no to those that are less effective. So that segued me into thinking a little bit about courage and the courage it takes to say no on things. Deciding what to say yes and no to are some of the hardest decisions we make as leaders, and they often require a great deal of courage. No matter what direction you choose, people will always be able to, and will, point out that what could have happened had you made a different decision. If you said yes, someone could argue that if you had said no, you would have been more effective by limiting yourself and the organization to a smaller mission. Same thing on the flip side. If you say no, people can always argue that you could have been more effective or made more money had you said yes to this and chased this opportunity over here, whatever that thing might be. People will do that. It's in our nature, and I'm just as guilty of doing this as anybody else. That's something that, looking back, one of the things I'm more embarrassed by, even if it wasn't something I addressed publicly, just having those thoughts come through my head. Definitely something I've done and made judgments on other leaders that I've been under, the decisions that they've made, and didn't really appreciate the weight and the difficulty of making those decisions, and respect the fact that they had to make those decisions and that they did. I also wrote that the voice inside your head is going to do this to you as well. So whenever you make decisions, it's not only going to be other people coming and say, hey, you could have done this, you could have done that. That voice inside your head is going to be doing the same thing. So you might expect me now to say to ignore those people or that voice in your head, but I don't think you should. They keep us humble. They force us to remain detached and constantly evaluate what the next best step is. So take that feedback and leverage it to make the best next step forward. This doesn't mean that we need to dwell on the past or previous mistakes, but we must be wise enough to recognize the profit from any mistakes we have made along the way. Last thing, just a good reminder on everyone being a leader in this capacity. So no matter what rank you are within a company, you are making decisions on saying yes and no to things, whether you realize it or not. Priorities are not set by the leaders at the top alone. Every member of the team is responsible for effectively prioritizing their piece of the mission and communicating those priorities up, down, and across the chain of command. Prioritize effectiveness and drive results. Hard work alone doesn't win. Effectiveness and delivering results wins. And that's all I've got for today. Y'all have a good week.